Over the last, how many, 11 days, my family has had the craziest stomach flu that basically took my whole family down for literally 11 days. That being said, we have meat chicks that we got that desperately needed to have the chicken tractor built and get out into the grass. The original plan was to do that like 2 weeks ago, right when everybody got sick. So we need an extra week to get the chicken tractor built and get the chickens out into the orchard to graze until it's time to butcher. That being said, we have an old brooder here that is a little bit bigger than what they're currently in right now in our garage. So this setup is a temporary setup basically for the next week to bide us some time to get caught back up to where we should have already been prior to the stomach flu fiasco. So I'm gonna try to get this set up really quick. That way when my husband gets home, all we have to do is move the chicks out here and like the food, the water, the heat plate and all that stuff. The really cool thing about this setup is it was actually my grandparents. When my grandparents did their version of a homestead for who knows, like 20, 30 years, I don't even know, like a super long time. And my grandpa passed away a couple years ago. When that happened, my grandma gave me all of their like chicken processing equipment, and they raised their own chickens every year for like, once again, who knows how long, right? Like 20 years probably. And they gave us this equipment and we haven't done meat birds yet. So it's just been sitting, and it makes my heart really happy to know that we're pulling it back out and it's getting some use again. And I know my grandparents would just be like elated knowing that the stuff that they had is like moving to a second generation and helping to feed our homestead, which I think is just super cool. So I'm really excited to get this set up today. That being said, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna set it up really quick. I pulled the extension cord in here. We have a huge thunderstorm coming today, so I'm trying to get it done now while the weather's not super rainy and super crummy. So let's hurry up and try to get that done. And you can put this over the top and it protects them, keeps them in. The big chickens aren't gonna be able to get in this to mess with them. And then it has a point where there's a heat lamp in here, which you'll see them hanging from the coop. We really don't use heat lamps that much just because there's a huge risk of fire. We use heat plates instead, but we're gonna leave it here and just put the heat plate inside. But it works really, really well. So this is gonna be set up and ready to go for when we have to use it. Completely and utterly just full of eggs. So I'm gonna have to get a bucket, maybe send some kids out here to get those. Survival mode the last 2 weeks pretty much. So it is what it is. We laid our weed paper out yesterday and now I'm seeing that it's ripping. And we barely have any wind right now. Dang, that sucks. Dang it, I don't have time to mess with this right now. Untangling that extension cord was way more of a task than it should have been, but we got it. The truth about homesteading isn't always sunrises and beautiful garden harvest and even more awesome sourdough starters. Behind the scenes, sometimes you just hit a wall, whether that be burnout or a really long sickness like our family had that can leave gardens completely neglected, chores backing up, and not to mention just the piles of laundry and mess that happen in a normal home during total really bad flu bug. So today we're kind of stopping that and we're facing the mess that happened. We're trying to slowly dig ourselves out of all of the things that have backed up all of those chores that really needed to be done like 2 weeks ago. And this is just us kind of reclaiming things on the homestead, whether that just be getting into a day-to-day routine or just kind of picking up the pieces and knowing that we're behind, but just still doing it anyway. Honestly, it can sometimes feel like on the homestead that garden beds are overgrown. The mile-long to-do list just feels like it only grows. But at the end of the day, it does feel good to finally pick up a shovel again, or to just get outside again and kind of forget the pressure of quote-unquote doing it all, which, I mean, sometimes it's really nice when you get to catch up and do it all. I make those videos. I love days like that. But the reality is sometimes returning back to the basics of just like getting back into making foods from scratch and getting back into animal care and all of those things, catching up on the endless piles of laundry that happen after a flu bug. Sometimes just that is really satisfying, especially when your house feels like it has been falling apart for weeks. I guess what I'm trying to say is, what do you do when the dream life becomes just so overwhelming, just so exhausting? I read a statistic that most homesteaders quit within the first 5 years. So what do you do to try to mitigate that feeling of, I just want to quit, or I just want to sell and move to something smaller, even though this was your dream, right? And I think the reality is all of us as a whole have to stop chasing that perfect aesthetic and just try to focus on the basics here, which is to be self-sufficient, whether that be on a small scale, on a large scale, whatever that is. And we all have to be honest with our wins here, which we're going to talk about more in a little bit. But just being able to really get back to the basics and really, I mean like really celebrate those wins. Like today I was able to clear out my fridge and get my chicken scraps out, which was something that had been really piling up in the fridge since we were sick for so long. But also being able to bring my sourdough starter back out of the fridge and restart that so that we could get homemade bread going again after like 2 weeks of being in the fridge, because the second I realized that we were all going down, I threw my sourdough starter in the fridge so that I wouldn't have to worry about her while we were all kind of going through it. That could even be things like catching up on all of our laundry, or like us making sure that we got our chicks moved and settled into a better location. It's all those little wins that I think the aesthetic of social media has kind of just destroyed and made us feel like those aren't good enough or those aren't big enough. If your house isn't like perfectly curated and all of your cabinets are perfect and there's no crumbs in the bottom of your refrigerator or whatever. And the truth is that those are normal things. Like, it is normal for your house to be lived in, and this is something that I've gotten a lot better at personally since having more children. And sometimes I do still have those moments where I'm like, ugh, like, why is it like this? Or I wish this wasn't the way it is when it comes to the cleanliness of my home. Like, why are my walls always so dirty is one of the ones that I ask my husband all the time. And his response to me always is, Cassandra, we have too many children for you to care about this. Like, this is not your season to care if your walls have little smudgies on them. And it always helps bring me back to reality that, like, he's definitely right. And maybe it is the quote-unquote aesthetics that make me feel that way. It could just be the fact that I'm a freak and it bothers me. Maybe down for a nap. It has been, honestly, I think the longest, like 10 or 11 days of my entire parenting life. It's been so rough. And it wasn't even because this is the worst flu bug we've ever had. We've definitely had worse flu bugs, for sure. However, I think it was just the fact that a lot of us, because it took so long to make its way through the house, got it twice. So the people who started off the flu rotation, by the time that the last people to get it got it, they restarted. So half of our family actually got it 2 times, including the baby, which is honestly what made it the hardest. She's having the hardest time getting back into it. She's just still very like hard to make happy and things, and that's what makes it hard just mentally, is that the baby's so upset and you want to fix it, but there's really nothing you can do. So it's just like bucking up and getting through it and hoping that eventually one day she's gonna wake up and things are gonna be being said. Because we have such a large family, it's probably gonna take another 2 weeks to just get everything back up and running smoothly and efficiently. But a lot of that obviously depends on the littlest one, whatever that happens to be at the time. Right now our littlest is 11 months. So basically we're not going to get back up and running properly until she's back up and running properly, and honestly who knows how long that's going to take at this point. But I'm just going to take my wins where I can get them, and right now she's napping. I got through most-ish of my laundry, which is good. Blankets and things, we all know how things, especially laundry, piles up during a flu bug, especially with 7 people. So we're gonna count our wins where we get them, even though mentally right now I'm so exhausted. My weed paper, or my holy paper, I don't know what to call it, is flying everywhere. We live in an area that has really high winds, and I kind of knew that was gonna be an issue going into it, but we put literally like 200 stakes into our weed paper. I thought that would be enough to hold it. It's not. Obviously this morning I went out there and re-staked, put more stakes in it. That wasn't enough to hold it, so I basically went out there and picked up whatever pieces of wood that I had laying around and put it over the top of the paper just to keep it from completely blowing away. I'm hoping that it's enough to where it doesn't like get ripped or torn or anything, because the paper kind of is an investment. It's like $100 for a 100-foot roll. We do have more paper, so if it does get ruined at the end of the day, it's not like the biggest deal. But also good to know, I'm happy that I don't have any of my plants in it yet. We're going to have to do our absolute best when we put the weed paper down to make sure that we are covering it in wood chips or something. It's definitely not going to be something that we can just like leave uncovered like a lot of other people can. So I guess, you know, take your wins where you can get them. It sucks that the paper blew away, and it sucks that I can't keep it down, but it's also a good thing that I didn't have plants in the ground to also have those plants ripped up as the paper blew away. So it sucks, but it could have sucked a lot more. End of, you know, the whole thing. So taking my wins where I can get them, I suppose. But people always are asking me what I'm reading, because I like to share those. So currently I was reading the Trial of the Sun Kings series. This is book 4. To be honest, I'm struggling to get through this. I devoured, book 1 was okay. Thought it was fine. I guess I didn't have it, like, I don't know. It was a good book, but it wasn't like super fantastic. I've definitely read things that I liked better, but it was fine. I didn't dislike it or anything. It was a good read. Book 2 and 3 I devoured. I finished book 2 and book 3 in like 4 days or something like that between the 2 books. This book is 600 and some pages. I am 440 pages into it, and I'm struggling so hard to finish it. Like, I'm not excited to pick it up. I feel like it just drug on too long for me personally. The more and more I'm reading, the more and more I'm realizing I really just like duologies or standalones. I do really like a good series though. Like, I do like a good series, but something about these last couple 100 pages, like, I just can't bring myself to push through it. So what I did is I actually went and picked up some easy standalone like palette cleanser type things, and this one is Picking Daisies on Sundays. I finished this one over the last couple of days while my kids were really sick and I was trap napped with the babies essentially. I think I finished this in like 2 sittings. It was so good. It was exactly what I needed it to be. It's, you know, 300 and some pages, really simple, really easy read. basically it's just like a romance based in New York City, and it's basically like a Hallmark movie but in a book. It was very nice. It was a very delicate read. It was a good palate cleanser, everything that I needed it to be, like just a super simple read. Nothing like I've been reading recently in these hefty guys with like nothing but like war and politics and like world building, all that stuff, which I like. But I think just because I was in the depths of everything else going on, like being so behind in the garden, being so behind, and honestly I'm not as behind on housework as we could be. So once again, taking my blessings where I can get them. That's just like the reality of a large family, is that when things fall apart, like they really have the potential to fall apart. But we're so behind in the garden. We have almost nothing in. I direct sowed some seeds a little bit ago. I think I shared that video. I'm so behind on YouTube. I'm so behind everywhere else. But I always like to remind myself, like it could be a whole lot worse. So every day I am constantly reminding myself of like the good things that happened during the day, because honestly that is the only way I'm getting through this season right now. I literally, when I looked out the window and saw that the weed paper was flying again all over for the second time today, it took everything in me not to just like bust into tears, because I'm just so, I feel like I am drowning, and every time I feel like I'm like coming up for air, it's like I look over and like there's a whole new fire to put out. And I think that's just the reality of having, I mean, I was telling my husband last night, it doesn't matter if you have 1 kid or 5 kids, like you're always gonna have moments like that. And right now I just constantly feel like I'm drowning. But the good news is Taking Daisies on Sundays was a really good book. It honestly really helped me get through the like nap trapped, like stuck on the couch, because I'm not kidding, I don't think I had at least 2 kids who were sick at the same time for 11 days. And you know, one on each side of me. My husband didn't go to work for like a week and a half because once again, drowning, and he ultimately got sick. He was sick for like 4 or 5 days as well. So I read a lot over the last couple of days. That being said, I am going to choose to ignore the huge pile of laundry that's sitting in front of me. It's just mine and my husband's stuff. We got all the kids' stuff taken care of, all the towels and all the blankets taken care of. So I'm going to cut it off for now. Washed is good enough for me. I honestly can pass that pile of laundry off on my husband when he gets home and say, please go put this away for me, and he will gladly do that. We have a huge rainstorm coming in tonight, so we're not gonna be able to do anything, plant anything out. I haven't even started hardening off my tomatoes. That was another thing. I started hardening off about half of my plants, and I'm glad that I only ended up hardening off half of them, because I think we're on day like 3 or 4 of hardening them off, and then, you know, my house imploded and they got left outside and they basically withered away into nothing. So basically everything that I put outside is dead. Half of everything I started is gone. Basically all the flowers the kids started, all of my herbs are dead. All my Roma tomatoes, all my pumpkins, all my squash, it's dead. So I'm gonna have to buy those from the nursery. Not that big of a deal, but once again, taking the wins where I can. All of the other ones that I didn't put outside, they look fantastic. They're thick, they're strong, they're some of the best tomato plants I think I've ever grown, which is good. Taking my wins where I can, and those ones are a lot of my specialty tomatoes. So to be honest, if I were to pick what I would want to die and what I would want to have for myself to plant, it's exactly what happened. I can get my herbs, I can get my Roma tomatoes and my like normal slicers and stuff from my local greenhouse. I can't get all those specialty tomatoes that I ordered from my local greenhouse. So if it had to go down the way it did, honestly, I'm not super upset about it. It does suck because it's time and money that I feel like are wasted, quote unquote, but at the end of the day, not that big of a deal. So I'm going to slowly start hardening those off over this course of the week. Today is Tuesday. I'm hoping that this weekend, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we can work on getting the garden planted out. We also are gonna have to go down to the greenhouse and purchase some things to get planted. But like I said, a lot of things were just working against me this year when it comes to the garden, whether that be the weather and the frost, which probably ended up being a good thing that we got a lot of late frost, because otherwise, once again, the garden would have been in, we would have been sick, and it probably all would have died. Overall, though, I'm going to try to do my best to rest while the baby naps and gear up mentally for the next shift of a very upset child, because that is the hardest. Honestly, that has been the absolute hardest part, is just listening to a baby be upset and crying, and there's really nothing you can do about it, and there's nothing really anybody can do about it. You know, you just have to like grit your teeth and get through it. So cheers to gritting through and getting through it. I hope wherever you guys are having a fantastic day. I hope that things are going better for you and your family than they are for mine right now. Oh my gosh, I have to laugh, because if I don't laugh, I'm gonna cry a little bit, but it's okay. We are going to get through. So I hope this video helps explain my ridiculous absence over the last little bit, because it's been tough going around here. But like I said, I think the finish line is in sight. I just don't know how many more days away the finish line is to get back to normal. But over the last 2 days, I'm feeling a lot better, because the house has pulled back together a little bit more. We're definitely gonna be behind for a while, but you know what? We're just gonna have to embrace it. And a lot of the times it's just the mental struggle and accepting what is. So that's what I'm doing right now. But like I said, I hope things are going better for you and your family, and I will see you guys in another video. Bye.